IT Collab podcast. Sorry for the mispronunciation. My co-host Nathan Taylor's out this week. He is apparently enjoying his children, so that's awesome. Today, my special guest is Perry Sawano, and he is the Director of Culture Development at Uncommon Solutions. How you doing, Perry?
I'm doing great, Brandon. I really appreciate being invited to your show. I'm very excited.
That's awesome. So as you know, it's been like a long process. We've obviously been some novices over the last year. We're starting to get a little more traction. So today I'm excited to have you on because I know that you've owned businesses. I know you've done stuff. I know you've helped other businesses and you're not the most technical person. So really what I was hoping to do is get more insight from you as far as what people can do or what business owners think of in the IT space. And, a lot of times we talk to these technical people, but what can business owners get out of this too? So could you just tell us more about your background and we could start there?
You bet. My background is mostly business and finance. And during that experience, I did quite a bit of business consulting. And in all those engagements, there was always discussions about IT. There's no business, small or large, that isn't using a lot of IT, especially now. Many of the people that I encountered, business people, sharp, driven, excellent at what they do, but often regarded technology as just sort of a necessary evil. Like, I have to do this, I have to deal with it. And so to me, it really starts there because as I've talked to business people over the years, helping them understand that if they can change their attitude about IT and look at it as an investment, and then think about how can you make IT make you money in your business. Even though your underlying business is doing something entirely different, it doesn't matter whether you're producing a product or delivering a service. IT can help you save money, it can help you make money, it can save you time, and it can reduce your risk. And so that's, to me, to answer your question, that's what I would encourage anyone listening to this podcast as a business person, is to think of your IT as an investment, and that's where your journey begins.
Okay. Could you possibly give me an example of something you've done in the IT realm where it's helped you improve your business?
Yes. Once upon a time, I was in a service business, a professional service business that had to retain and analyze a lot of data. And at the time, the third-party solutions that were available that were designed to serve the industry that I was in were either very expensive or they weren't very functional. So what I ended up doing is creating a lot of workflows and a lot of systems in spreadsheets. And eventually that graduated into actual databases and Access, to be specific.
Access, yeah.
And over time, I realized that I was spending more time being something that I wasn't being paid to do. I was being a technologist. I felt like I was forced to because I didn't see a better solution. But the truth is, at that time in my career, I too was still not necessarily thinking of technology, my business, as a necessary evil. Evil would have been too strong of a word, but it was kind of a necessary annoyance. And I just wanted something that was just going to work, and find what was going to work. And so instead I just said, I'll just do it myself. You want something done right, you do it yourself, darn it. And
we're just an overhead cost, right? IT is just an overhead cost.
But that was the wrong attitude. I needed to realize that there are a lot of IT professionals out there that are good business people. And I just, instead of resigning myself to, if you want something done right, you just do it yourself, and doing something that wasn't my skill set. I learned skills, of course, but I would have been much better off just to invest that time looking for the right person, using my network, looking for a referral, and then getting the right person to do what they did well. Who knows, if I had done that, who knows how much time I would have saved, aggravation, and frankly, money.
How would you save time or money?
Because knowing what I know now, if I knew then what I knew now, I would know that I should have invested, once again, the time looking for an IT professional that understood my business, that was going to listen to me, and was trying to solve my business problem. Because that person was out there then. That person is out there now. And I just got impatient with it and decided, I'll just do it myself. So in a way, I knew enough technology just to be dangerous to myself. I probably would have been better off if I'd have been totally intimidated by the whole thing, and then it would have forced me to go find someone. But the truth is, knowledge isn't anything to be afraid of, and truthfully, the fact that I wasn't a complete stranger to technology. I mean, I grew up on 5-inch floppies and writing DOS, so unlike some people who look at a computer, it's just a big mystery in a steel box. I'm not that far gone. And so it would have made me a better shopper. It would have put me in a better position to interview the right IT person. So whether, you're a business person listening to this podcast now, and you're wondering to yourself, do I have the right IT professional? Maybe I know too much, maybe I don't know enough. The bottom line is, whatever you're doing, if it's not IT services, then you owe it to yourself, do what you're good at and find a professional to do what you need done. And if you can't find a person that can provide the IT need that you need, that it's truly an investment, that you look at that as an investment and not a sunk cost, it just means you need to keep looking, because that person's out there. You need to ask for referrals. They're there.
Well, thanks. I appreciate your insight there, Perry. So next, I'm gonna go into the wonderful world of what we call security. How have you seen the need? I know that more and more companies are starting to experience security issues. Um, what would you tell other companies as far as like a security breach or what it's going to cost them? No one cares about it until it happens to them. Um, why should they care, and why should they care about it before it happens to them?
From my perspective as a business person, cybersecurity, IT in general, but cybersecurity specifically, it's a lot like a person's internal organs. I don't really think a lot about my liver or kidney until they stop working, and then my whole world stops, and I can't do anything else, and I have to deal with it, and it's a lot more expensive, and sadly, in some cases, it's fatal. Like, you don't come back from it. And so I think most educated people now know that you should be proactive about your healthcare. You don't wait to be symptomatic, because if you do, you're really setting yourself up for a bad situation. And your business's IT environment, its security, its safety, it's the same thing. You can look at, I don't want to go to the doctor's appointment. I don't want to take those. I don't want to change my life. Okay, well, wait long enough, and sooner or later, your hand will be forced, and hope you survive. And that's the message to business owners, because it is not if you're going to have a security breach, it's when, and how big, and how severe.
Yeah, I think nowadays it's kind of crazy how deep these people that they basically run this like a business, where they do map you out, right? They'll log into your system, and they will actually go in and say, okay, well, Susie's accounting and she makes requests to so and so, and they'll map it out for months, right, on their boards and do the things they do, and then they'll implement all the right things, and they'll do RSS feeds and other stuff on the back end, so you never even see that they're there. And when they make a request for a transaction, they do these things. It's kind of crazy. So in that instance, we talk about cybersecurity, like cybersecurity and internal. I think it was a great analogy of internal organs. What would you recommend as far as we try and say security and from the business aspect? What would you tell like a company to look for as far as someone that they're getting good security?
Well, if a company has an external IT provider that's managing their IT, or whether a company has their own internal IT department, if that provider or if that department is not hiring a third party to audit that system on a regular basis, you need to find someone who understands the need for that. And if you have to suggest it, then you've already lost, because now, well, what else should they be doing that I don't even know about, right? Because a really good internal IT team or external resource, they're doing that. That's best practices.
That's very fair. So a third party audit, thank you. I appreciate that one. How do you feel about, let's just talk about this. I don't know how to probably phrase this question. me being an MSP guy, like, managed services provider for IT, from business aspect, how do you guys look at a managed service provider? Do you like them? Do you not? What are they good at? What are they like? Just do you have an experience with MSPs in your business before?
I do. And it's mostly about good business practices. So, what I mean by that is there are these fundamentals across all service businesses, such as how clear are they in their communication? Do they communicate clearly in a way that I, the business owner, understands?
Yeah.
Are they asking more questions? Are they doing a lot of talking? Because if they're doing a lot of talking, then they're not really learning about me and my environment, and that's what matters to me. Is that you understand me. You're the one providing me the service. It's not important for me to understand you. It's important for you to understand me. So that's the second thing that I look for, is if they're doing more talking than asking questions. A third thing is, do they do what they say they're going to do? So if you hand me an agreement and I read through it and there's stuff in there that you say you were going to do and you didn't, well, that's an obvious red flag. And then fourthly, what is that firm doing to continually educate, train, and be on the leading edge of technology? Because if they can't explain to me, well, here's what we do to constantly stay ahead of the curve, I got the wrong person, because even if you're doing that, you run the risk of not being ahead of the curve. So if you're not even trying, that's a problem. And you've got to be able to explain it to me in plain English what you're doing to be ahead of that curve, so that I'm not a statistic and you say, oh, gee, that's a terrible thing. Let's try and figure that out. I mean, you're looking for a proactive attitude and culture in a service provider, not a reactive one. And those aren't necessarily specific to IT. It's just that it works also for IT services. So to answer your original question, I look for those fundamentals.
No, I really appreciate the feedback there. And I know today it's gonna be a little bit shorter episode because I know that we are on a time crunch, but I want to respect this. So I'm gonna probably go here in the next level, and I'm gonna ask you something about compliance. I don't think most people in America or business owners know that the government is currently trying to pass a bill, and they're trying to get this quantified. They've been doing it for years. It's called CMMC. And we've also done some other podcasts on there with other people that are experts in compliance. But I also just wanted more of a business owner's aspect on this, that they're going to pass a bill that will then hold companies liable for any data leaks, breaches, and things like that. So the government will fine you. And it's like GDPR for Europe, where you're holding companies accountable. So when you get these emails or this stuff in the mail saying, hey, that your identity has been compromised, and they're going to start finding these big companies, but that's also going to apply to small business. What would you do, or what if you heard about this? What would you do to try and circumvent this or get ahead of it, so that you're not on the short end of the stick when something happens to you?
Well, that's a great question. I am aware of that, and I have been thinking about it. The first thing that a business person needs to do is talk to their insurance company and say, hey, what do I need to do so that if I'm compromised and someone sues me, that you're going to cover that liability? And if the insurance agent or adjuster or whoever they're talking to representing the insurance company doesn't know what you're talking about, then you need a different insurance carrier.
Right.
Secondly, then once I have that information, I'm going to go to my IT service provider and I'm going to say, what are you doing with CMMC? And if they don't know what I'm talking about, then I'm not being coy when I say you need to find a different provider, because it is inevitable. Even if they don't get it past this go around, it's going to get passed. It's just the direction that our government is heading. And it doesn't really matter to debate the issue of whether it's good or bad, unless you're a lobbyist, and I suppose that's your job. But the rest of us, ordinary people, I space that is plugged in, that understands what's going on in Capitol Hill, and is very clear about, look, if you want us to protect you, you've got to be doing these things in your business. And then having an IT provider that also is equally informed and in the loop, so that they're explaining, this is how we're making you comply with those standards, so that in the event that there is a compromise, you can show that you did everything possible. And that's not just so you can get an insurance claim. I mean, frankly, that's a factor, but it's so that you can answer to your end consumer, your client, right? You need to be able to look at these people in the straight face and say, look, I'm terribly sorry, and I want you to know that we did everything that could have been done, and we're at war, because cyber criminals are professionals. They aren't just the acne-covered teenagers in their basement in black, and they're not these, illiterate people offshore. I mean, these are professionals. These are individuals. This is a business.
To them,
And
yeah.
it's corporate espionage, and it's serious. And so, as a business owner, you have to take it serious.
Do you know the difference between cybersecurity insurance or criminal insurance, or theft insurance, something like that?
I do not.
I keep hearing this one recently, and I know that that's kind of a big one, right? Is that on top of it, I know a lot of insurance companies are bundling. They're trying to say, well, this is also a criminal act, so you have to have like a threat to insurance or criminal insurance along those lines. It depends on what insurance call it, but it's cybersecurity, and they're kind of putting it together because it is a criminal act. So that's a new one I've been hearing, and it's not only IT. I think they're really starting to hold the accounting departments liable, right? So if there's a transaction that has to place, they have to get permission to send said funds, and multiple people will approve it. So I'm going to circle all the way back to kind of more or less the beginning, Perry, and really ask you this. I know we talked about security, and it's technically a place to go, but going back to what you said earlier and what you would have known now and what you could leverage, could you give me an example of what you've seen another company, a company of yours, or just yourself? Have you ever seen a company how they could actually utilize data, utilize dashboards, utilize IT to actually help save time, hence money, in their business?
Wow. So I have so many examples. I need to take a second here and think of a good one.
That's fine.
So a specific example would be a company that provides professional medical services.
Okay.
And private practice.
Okay.
So there's quite a bit of compliance and data management that they are responsible for, and those tools are provided by IT companies that specialize serving the healthcare space. In addition to that, these businesses have employees, and there's not much emphasis on how to empower and equip the employees to do these different services and serve the patients well. So I think that the industry has done a good job of specializing and serving the healthcare industry. It hasn't necessarily done as good a job equipping the people who are actually serving the patients. They've done a good job protecting the patients and serving their needs, but not necessarily empowering the employees. So the dashboard that I'm thinking of, to answer your question, in this particular healthcare practice, they had 20 plus employees, and all these employees had multiple tasks that had to be done throughout the day, and they had to get information from multiple systems in order to do their job.
Right.
So they hired an IT company to come in and create dashboards that were taking information from these mandated systems that they needed to use to serve the patients well, but to give them the information so that the employees could do their jobs well. And while those two things seem connected, like, well, how can the patient be served well if the employee isn't equipped to do their job well? Because they work late, because they're stressed out,
right,
because the patients sure they're getting their basic survival needs met, but that quality of care, that bedside manner, it's gone when you've got Sally who's running back and forth trying to do 10 things, and she's got patients waiting, and so it's just not as good experience. The patient's in no physical danger, but we all know that our emotions can't be separated from our physical health, and so by having those dashboards equipped those employees to do their jobs more effectively.
Do you know how those dashboards help the employees?
By giving them one access point. Here's all the information that I need to see. Here's the things that I need to be aware of. Here's what I need to act on right now. Instead of hunting around different places. Oh, well, this is over here and this is over there. And Nurse Jane is calling me and Dr. Jones is calling me and the patient's glaring at me. And so that's how it helped, is it brought it all in one place.
Save time. Yeah, at the end of the day, right? Like that's what you're trying to do is find out the stuff, and you can look through all your data and try and figure out where it's at. But that's a whole different slew, right?
It is.
Of IT issues. It's definitely not your regular IT stack or IT service. Kind of have to have some special people on that one. So Perry, I know that we kind of had a hard stop today and a little short on time, but I really appreciate you joining me. We're going to wrap it up here and just say thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate it. And to all of our subscribers, I just want to say thank you for listening. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on anything that you have, and we can try and bring on people that can add more value. So Perry, thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Brandon. It's an honor to be here.
Perfect. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.